Good morning. This is a 2017 2430 200 horsepower Vortex. We are going to be removing all of this to replace the wear-rings and the impellers, which are in there. Yay. I will be doing my best to show you the steps I am going to take. Okay, so we have removed the connecting rod between two nozzles as a 10mm bolt. So one stayed in the end of the rod, so I did not remove that from the bolt. And then the next thing I removed is the connecting rod to the buckets. I left the nut in place, which is 10mm. So now the buckets are moving freely. Sorry for the camera work, I'm out here by myself. Now we'll take the buckets off next. It appears they come off using these bolts here, top and bottom, and it looks like it comes off in one unit. So here we go. So these 4 bolts, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, for the reverse system housing. A little bit of a bear, so I have some penetrating oil on them. I'm gonna let them set for a little bit and then get back to them. Okay, this has been a nightmare, so I'll catch crap from people for rounding out some holes, but these 2 bolts failed to come out. Those 2 bolts came out perfect. And then on the starboard side, all 4 of these bolts are loose, and that cover is ready to come off. I have all 4 bolts off of the pump housing here, as you can see, and we are ready to take the pump housing out, and then I will deal with this guy once we get it on the ground. Damn it, that sucks. Anyway, some extra parts. Always keep your hardware handy. Later. Okay, we're back. We got all 4 of the bolts are off. That one was a little son of a bitch. I'm talking to you. Look at that, nice corrosion. I used a pry bar, lovingly, right up under here, to give a little pressure while I was moving, and now you can see it moving. We are ready to remove. I'm gonna have to set this down maybe. Yeah. There we go. All right, hold on. So there's some problems with the impeller. That guy just got shredded. So luckily I have new wear-rings. I have new impellers, even though these guys look pretty good. I'll save them. But that's definitely not good. That is, I think, part. I'm not sure. Get all that cleaned up and ready to go. But yeah, that was a bear. Look at those threads. So just PB Blaster or WD-40 ahead of time, something like that. All right, till later. Okay, working on the housing now. Ignore some of the other stuff going on. We have the wear ring is out. Oh, that's terrible lighting. The wear ring is out. Actually didn't look too terrible. Where that guy is here. So I think the vibration was just caused due to that that cone being all torn up. Yep, we had an injury. And so we'll replace all that. But I was at the dreaded cone part, which we have these 5mm bolts. I took out the other 3. I took out the other 2. There's 3 there. And so now it is time to pop this guy off. I'm gonna need both hands, I think. Ooh! All right, I used a screwdriver here to pry it just a little bit. A little twist in action. You guys are gonna get to see this first. I'm not really looking, I'm just kind of twisting and prying. They said this. Oop, I gotta watch out. Don't mess it up. Probably gonna have a fucking seizure. Just work it around slowly. This thing does not want to come off. It's like everything else on this stupid boot. Oh, that doesn't smell bad, but there she is. Cone is off. Yeah, glob of grease in there. Doesn't look like it's very appetizing, but we're getting closer. Okay, guys. So, what you are seeing here is the jet pump ready to be removed. I have already loosened this up because it took me a few minutes to get the process down. So, I'm doing this without a vise. I've got my handy impeller tool. It goes in here. I've got this particular tool has a 36mm socket, giant breaker bar, and I just put the wrench on, brace it against the floor here, which you can't see because it keeps falling off, and I only have one hand. Put the old feet on here, boom, gave it a big crank, and now you can see that that is loose. So then the rest of it is pretty simple. Impeller tool, impeller socket, impeller. This guy is gonna be, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think maybe I will send it to somebody that does reconditioning because it's in decent shape. And maybe I'll get it reconditioned, keep it as a spare. Maybe I'll sell it to cover the cost. I don't know. But anyways, on the inside, you can see this is all good. I will clean this guy up, re-lubricate, and get it ready for the new impeller. Okay, I can't make this up. I saw a couple videos about placing the wear ring in the freezer for an hour, and it would just drop in. I can't make it up. I was gonna drop it in and test fit it, and then make a video, and it dropped right in, and now it's in there. It's starting to thaw. I don't know if you can see that. The moisture collecting as it's thawing and expanding into its spot, and I'm not gonna take it back out. But I just want you to know for real, that freezer trick works. I just put the wear ring in the freezer for about 45 minutes. Came out and it literally dropped right in. Okay, new impeller from impellers.com. I don't remember. I can link it, but Wear ring is in and ready to go. Now we're gonna try installing. Just drops right in and start turning. According to the spec, it's supposed to be 90 degrees foot-pounds. Man, that is pretty. So, yep, I'm gonna get her back on the floor and torque it down, and we'll be back. Okay, she's in, she's torqued. Time to put the final touch. Little cap in. And I'll use 2 hands to tighten that guy down, but that is pretty much it. And then I will do a couple short videos when we do the reinstallation. Oh God, that was easier. Okay, I saw lots of recommendations. This is what I'm going with. Evinrude genuine part for BRP. Part number 775776, apparently. And some of them said use gear oil in here, but there is no filler cap on this particular cone. This is this is 2017 VRX 2430, 200 horsepower. So cap is clean, everything else is good. I'm gonna pack that bad boy with grease, and you don't want to watch that. Okay, well, that was not pretty, but it is complete. We have grease. We have grease. Time to get the nose cone back on. Okay, we have grease. You can see it's a mess, I'll wipe that up. Get your holes lined up ahead of time, and then try and give it a loving squeeze in. Probably gonna need 2 hands to make sure it goes in straight. Okay, I've got it semi-seated, and I'm gonna use the old. We're gonna use the alternating tie-down method, whatever you want to call it. Basically, we're gonna get all the screws started, if we can, and then we'll use the screws to pull the cone down tight instead of trying to manhandle it into place. Just be careful not to cross thread anything, because that will effectively ruin your entire pump housing, because you'll never be able to get those screws on again. So again, tighten it down a little bit. You want to check your gaps, make sure that it's going down even. When you get like the same amount of resistance on each head, then you're doing about right. You know, a few turns here and there. You just effectively want to make sure that that gap stays the very same all the way around. See, this is like, that was hard. Sorry for the camera work. Shitty. My roll on my iPhone. Working one-handed. Mad at this thing. But these new impellers hopefully ought to perform better. They're stainless, right? So maybe they won't get dinged up, although mine were not dinged up. Alright, I need to hold this so that I can tighten it. And then we'll be ready to move on. Okay, it's not pretty, but we're together. This part. We had to do some modifications with bolts, but other than that, it should work. Now we're going to start on the starboard while this one rests up. So the port's still out. It's over there being angry. It'll be okay. So we're going to go ahead and get on the starboard side. We have disconnected this reverse control bucket there. We're going to have to pull that cotter pin and that little cap. This guy, that guy. This whole shaft just pops up and out. And then we're gonna disconnect this control steering rod right now. It's an 11 millimeter. Pretty sure top and bottom. That's so hard to judge. Yep, 11 millimeter top and bottom. So we're gonna pop that guy off, and then the 4 bolts that gave me such a hard time on the port side are actually already loosened. So then this whole assembly will come off, and we'll get that out of the way. All right, next. I'm loving the amount of corrosion right there. So that's free. I'm actually kind of using the camera to look right now. So that bolt is gonna stay there. We'll clean those threads up. You can see them there. Goober, and you can see all that corrosion right there. So we'll clean all that mess up. But I'm gonna put the nut back on so that I don't lose it. Okay. So for the cotter key, you just gotta take your time and bend it. And then once you've got that, you wanna make sure you save the old cotter pin there. And then this, like I said, this plastic cap will come over here. This plastic cap comes up, and then this just pops out like so. And we'll clean that bit up as well too. So now this whole reverse bucket and rear nozzle assembly is ready to have those 4 bolts out and removed, and I'm going to be doing that. And these things just take a stupid long time to come out, but the 2 bottom ones are already out. I just figured you guys would deal with my pain as well. Look at that, so stupid. I think that one's about ready to come out. They're just take forever. If they come out. If they don't come out, you're in for a world of hurt. That's what happened on the other one. Oh. And it's free. It just fell off in my hands. So that's free. Man, there she is. Look at these bolts. This part needs to come apart. So much corrosion in there. Oh, so gross. Yep. Oh, tasty. All right. God, that was so much easier than the other side. Okay, so now we're down to the 4 bolts on the impeller housing, and we'll remove that guy. You literally can't make this up. I'm using just a regular ratchet, and these bolts are just coming right off. God, the left side was such a pain in the ass. Dude, nope. So you don't need to sit here and watch me do all this. So I'm just gonna crank all these guys off and remove the impeller housing, just like did on the other side. All the bolts are off, but the housing is solidly stuck to the wall. So I get a pry bar and a rag, and you can get underneath back in here, and you can give a little pry. Let's see if that works. Some of the penetrant is still there. After much finagling, the starboard side is out. You can see it's pitted up as well. Right, but what I noticed, the difference between the port side and the starboard side, see the boot here, the little ring that goes around the prop shaft boot. Yeah, so I found the other one from the port side. It actually came off and was around the shaft. So when you take your impeller housing off, inspect the shafts very carefully, because that little ring, that little son of a bitch was hidden all the way up in there, and I could barely see it. So I had to go fetch my little tool to reach in and dig it out. So be careful. All right, the next one is out. God, what a pain in the ass. Torch, razor knife, vice grips. One. So I decided to score the wear ring because it's plastic, and then use the torch because it's plastic to heat up the wear ring inside, making it pliable. I was able to cut deeper and bend this thing out and grab a hold of it with the said vice grips. Bam, give her a yank, out she comes. Not too hard. The other one's in the freezer, and I'm gonna give that a few minutes, and I'm gonna show you this time on video just dropping it right in. See if all right, let's try this in one shot. To my crappy garage here. Freezer. It's not cold enough. Maybe. Nope. Okay, here we go. Straight from the freezer. And we're gonna see if it'll drop right in like they say. One impeller, one housing. You can't do it any easier than that. So the freezer thing works 100%. That just dropped right in, just like the port side, only I didn't videotape that one. Okay, so we got the wear ring in. It's seated and warming up. The new prop goes in, like so. And if you shine right down over here on the top, see the shaft? You can tighten this down by hand, loosely, until the shaft starts to spin. And then that's when you flip it over and grab that back set nut, and then you're ready to start tightening. Okay. Starboard housing is put back together and installed, and I felt this was worth mentioning. One, check your tolerances to make sure that it's seated all the way up, right? Tighten down in a cross pattern, right? Start up here, down here, whatever, so that you're pulling it, that gasket at the same rate, right? Once it's up there. And then I kind of reached through with my hand and tried to turn the impeller. So I got it pushed up and I spun the impeller just like a 1/4 inch, right? But it seats up on the spline, so you want to make sure that it aligns with the shaft properly. And then once it's installed, if you cannot turn the impeller and the enclosure is fully seated, right, then you know you're lined up on the shaft properly. There you go. A little white lithium grease, silicone on some parts, but there she is, done. I got 2 new impellers, 2 new wear rings, and nobody died. There was a lot of cussing, so at least there's that. All right, these are the new impellers. Seem to be running pretty smooth. Boat's a lot quieter. Everything else looks like it's working okay. For reference, 25 miles an hour used to be about 5,500 RPM. Right now we're at 30. At 48, 28 at 48. So there's a lot better efficiency with these guys. And they're a lot more responsive in the mid-range. So there you go.